I do want to focus initially on the Paducah gaseous diffusion plant because there's so many, it's going through a transition down there. And one question I'd like to ask you is this of course, communication between the state of Kentucky, the city of Paducah, and the Department of Energy is vitally important. And with all the changes taking place, the Paducah site has not really had a director or a lead that's really focused on that one area on site. And we've had some previous discussions about this, but could you share with us this morning whether or not you all do intend to appoint a person that would be responsible for that site and be responsible for good communication with the community and the state?
Yes. First of all, I've appreciated also your intercession in helping us with those communications with the city and the state. My understanding is that we are in the process of hiring that person. Why don't I get back and check exactly on the status of that and get back to you promptly.
But you do feel like
we do want to have a dedicated site manager at Paducah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Now, the FY14 budget for the Paducah area, the cleanup and everything, was around $265 million. And it's my understanding that not all of that money is going to be able to be spent this year. But it's my understanding that the Department of Energy would have the option of directing some of that additional money for cleanup. And as you know, with USEC coming to an end, a lot of people are losing their jobs down there. Could the Department of Energy, or are you all considering funneling some of that money for additional cleanup so that some of these people would be able to retain those jobs?
Well, we are, Mr. Chairman, we are working to try to speed up the contract discussions. Typically, these large environmental management contracts, they're complicated, they're very long-term, they have very, very large contract amounts, are 12 to 14 months. We're hoping to get that down a little bit shorter so that we can have that turnover early in the fall, and we're working hard on that. That's, I think, the reason why we anticipate having some carryover funds. We're trying to exercise what we can this year. I understand the concerns, but we will have carryover funds for sure. So I think also in the context of our FY15 request, I think we will have a strong program.
But when you're referring to the IDIQ contract,
yeah,
and did I understand you to say that in September, or did you?
September-ish is what we are trying to push to get that contract concluded.
Okay. Well, of course, that remains a priority for all of us involved with this issue, so we do appreciate your focusing on it and expediting it as much as possible.
We were able to beat the schedule last year on another issue. Right. Hopefully we can beat the schedule this year, but we're trying.
And also in the FY 2015, there's talk in the budget about transitioning the facility into a cold and dark state. And of course, we don't want it to be a cold and dark state because we were more interested in decontamination and decommissioning of the facility. But your understanding, what is the definition of a cold and dark state for a facility like that?
I can't say that I've, to be honest, really focused on that, but I would say that it means I think we need to have the facility in a stable, safe condition, without compromising the eventual D&D activities. Though those would be the objectives, at least. I can't say that I could describe in technical detail what it means.
But it is the goal to decontaminate and decommission rather than leave
certainly.
Us in a
cold that is certainly a requirement.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, Mr. Secretary, thank you for helping clarify some of those issues. I appreciate that very much. And I don't know how much time you have. We may go to a second round if you have time, but this time I'd like to recognize the gentleman from Illinois for 5 minutes of questions, Mr. Rush.
I want to thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, I do have a lot of questions that I want to cover, and I know I won't have the time to do it all this morning, so I will be submitting questions for the record and I'd like the agency to get back to me as promptly as possible. Two of the issues that I want to discuss today are both the Minorities in Energy Initiative and also the publicly funded National Research Labs. Of the agency's $27.9 billion budget request, what is the amount allocated to the Office of Economic Impact and Diversity, which is the agency primarily responsible for enacting the Minorities in Energy Initiative, both in terms of dollars and also in terms of percentage? Do you feel that this amount is adequately in terms of reflecting the priorities of reaching out and engaging minorities in the energy sector for both you and for President Obama? And can you do more? So those are three questions.
Well, first of all, I think the budget for the Economic Development Diversity Office is, I believe it's approximately $6 million. In the budget, I just want to clarify that in the budget, it shows a decrease, but it's not actually a decrease because two functions were placed elsewhere. One is by law. We had to move the OSDBU office, I forgot the name, Office of Small Business Office. The acronym, I've forgotten now what it stands for. But by statute, it turned out we had to move that outside and leave it as a coordinating office with the ED office under Dot Harris. The second thing is that there was a function placed in there, which the office was paying for the department-wide ombudsman, which was really misplaced. So we put that in the management and administration office as a better place. So the budget for that office really has not been cut.
So in your best estimates, then the budget is flatline to a great flatline.
I believe it's
not increase,
I
but
believe
it's not a
it's flat.
decrease. Is that what you're saying?
Flat. Yeah, I think that's correct. And if I go on to discuss the Minorities in Energy Initiative, and by the way, I do want to say that the birth of that was in a hearing here last June when you raised the issue. Right. I think it's off to a very, very successful start. With the ambassadors, you know that very well, Mr. Rush. But for example, and this is not on our budget, but for example, the American Petroleum Institute, because of the initiative, and its director is one of the ambassadors, they are having 8 regional meetings to attract minorities into the oil and gas industry workforce. I personally went in the end of January to Hampton University and recruited the president, Mr. Harvey, to an ambassadorship. But so we are promoting this. I think,
Mr. Secretary, can you do more?
We can do more, and be happy to discuss with you how we could do more.
All right. Moving on to the area of the publicly funded National Research Labs. How many publicly funded national research labs are there, and are any of these labs managed by or operated by a minority?
We have 17 national laboratories. Are
there any of them operated by a minority?
Well, I mean, they're operated by organizations. Let me say that I am dissatisfied, frankly, with the diversity in the upper management ranks of these laboratories, and that's something that we have taken up with our Lab Policy Council.
Yeah, would you speak specifically about Argonne and Fermi, which are located in my home state? Argonne and Fermi, which are located in my home state. What are the percentages of minority engagements at Argonne and Fermi lab?
Sir, I'll have to get back to you with that for the record because I don't know those numbers. I do know that the upper ranks of the management we have inadequate representation.
Do you have figures for any of the other 17 labs across the country?
No, but I'd be happy to get you those demographics.
Thank you very much.
Gentleman's time has expired. At this time, I recognize the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Barton, for 5 minutes.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Ms. Secretary, for being here. You're the only Cabinet Secretary